you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent Israel, glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan. I prostrate, may God Prince and Word for refuge, to the founder, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in all conduct, Sagata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan. I prostrate, may God Prince and Word for refuge, to the founder, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sagata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan. I prostrate, may God Prince and Word for refuge. When no supreme amongst humans you were born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides and said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise then, I prostrate. With pure bodies born supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best, Lord to you I prostrate. With supreme science face like spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. Dust free like you, the 3 worlds are not, incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, the Founder having all understanding, the field of miracle qualities like a vast ocean. To you, the one gone to thusness, I prostrate. The purity that frees one from attachment, the virtue that frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime reality, the dumb that pacifies, I prostrate. Those who are liberated and also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realizations controverted from your precepts. To you, the sublime community in giving virtue, I prostrate. Homage to the Supreme Buddha, homage to the Dharma Refuge, homage to the Great Sangha, to all 3 every devout homage. To all worthy of respect, bound with bodies as many as all realms, atoms in all aspects, with supreme faith I pay homage. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions. Perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a visual aberration, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud. See conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain the rank of all-seeing, subdue the foe of faults, and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. To page 15, the Heart of Perfection of Wisdom Sutra. I prostrate to the Aryan Triple Gem. Thus did I hear at one time the Bhagavan was dwelling on Masavultra's mountain in Vajragya, together with a great community of monks and a great community of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Bhagavan was absorbed in the concentration on the categories of phenomena called profound perfection. Also at that time, the bodhisattva Mahasattvahara in Avalokiteshvara looked upon the very practice of the profound perfection of wisdom and beheld those 5 aggregates also as infinite nature. Then, through the power of Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the bodhisattva Mahasattvahara in Avalokiteshvara: how should any son of the lineage train who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom? He said that, and the Bodhisattva Mahasattvahara said this to the Venerable Shariputra: Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom should look upon it like this, correctly and repeatedly behold those 5 aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, knowledge, practice, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are emptiness, without characteristic, uncontinuous, unceased, stateless, and without stain. Not deficient of fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no explanation, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomenon. There is no I element, and so on, up to and including no mind element, and no mental consciousness element. There is no inference, no extinction of inference, and so on, up to and including no aging and death, and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, agitation, cessation, and harm. There is no result of wisdom, no attainment, and also no modification. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on 12 perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration and without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they reach the end point of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times also manifestly completely awakened to unsurpassable perfect complete enlightenment in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequal, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering should be known as a truth since it is not false. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared Jayata Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhisoha. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan rose from that concentration and commended the Bodhisattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, saying, well said, son of the lineage. It is like that, it is like that. One should practice the profound perfection of wisdom, just as you have indicated. Even the Tathagatas rejoiced. The Bhagavan, having thus spoken, the Venerable Sharadeviputra, Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Arya Avalokiteshvara, those surrounding in their entirety along with the world of gods, humans, assurers, and others, were overjoyed and highly praised that spoken by the Bhagavan. Page 25 for the short mandala. Sashi poge juji meto dhan re ra le shi ninde jemba sanje jinde mi de o pu nam na shin la che bara sho jetsa lama dhamma che na ji che gu ka la jinde jinde ne che da sambe di je zem sa je 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 java abdo so Guru Rane Mendeva Kamniya Tayami Sanye Chodan Soji Chodan La Chancho Bado Dani Jaso Dake Chichin Chibe Sonam Chi Dola Pinji Sanje Dora Sanje Chodan Soji Chodan La Chancho Bado Dani Jaso Dake Chichin Chibe Sonam Chi Dola Pinji Sanje Dora Sanje Chodan Soji Chodan La Chancho Bado Dani Jaso Dake Chichin Chibe Sonam Chi Dola Pinji Sanje Dora Kange Dinjun Dewa Chong Kawa Mewa Jimewa Chewa Mewa Dame Wa Mewa Damewa Dade Demen Dijime Dewa Niji Shinema Zowe Sanje Mananje Tamba Dela Chazela Ninde Jewa Zona Guji Niji Deze Ganyan Dola Pemba Jina Lanji Niji Dendun Dozewa Kanda Yanda Deme Tuna Namba Gode Nazo De Suma Ninde Shinjo Simesanje Sanje Jine Yumde La Chazela Tunye Nije Zona Jove Lan Jiji Sinde Kanje Dinde Kwan Chana Pema Dinde Jazo Lan Sawa De Sa Shinde Lendo Sho Panden Zawe Lama Rambo Jen Dake Nyingara Peme Dishane Kode Chimbe Kone Chizan Kosong Do Jengu Do Ze Do So Adang Zu Kulong Kom Des Kulong Yo Kom Ya Wosh Tachiran Zu Kom Ja Shingara Kom Ya Wosh Jab Shosra.
Please correct your intention, set an excellent motivation that you will know how to do.
Hoi, ta yang ja lamrim samdang yu chunga dik. Ya, kya sang bures ro.
Yes. Again, to have the chance to listen to the Lamrim is a very fortunate opportunity.
Hoi ya, ta churang zo di lamrim ki tiwa suishar, di tiwa len jab yuna di jamjog. Shugu di chila nga sa kiyo na ane nga zo. Meri da nga nyi kante digi me tagra mancha da digi yu jira iji yus.
Yeah. For those that answered the questions for the Lamrim exam, please present them. I imagine you would have had not much difficulty with it, as you could refer to the text. I understand. You did fine.
Ta dila gdo khasa. Jinanda yigze yak shyo de da so semla ya. Paja shaya dres ro.
Yes.
Yigze yak shyo dres.
The rest, really, the best exam is when you are able to place imprints on your mind. Would be the best.
제단다 단단한저 디 네 가서를 그유 다직 추가 바자샤라지도
Yeah.
다 디레 람림 삼노다야 딜레이다 바자샤야가 춘 요 말스타로
When we talk about putting imprints of Dharma on the mind, on the mental continuum, there are no better to place there than those of this Lamrim, these stages on the path to awakening.
네 다 계시시 먼저 다리 둔다 다 나와질 학습 두주 동거여러
Yeah.
아니 두주 동거 디나라야다 다 람림 규 충 람지자와 신유 딘주 텐저 텐진 치오미다와 어디 가도 되네마 제제 아니 기진 좀도 많잖아 람림 델람게
Yeah.
탭디어 베지 니글라디 요 마르데 티질라 티지 고비지 캡제 티나네 마스 삼노단 단 티스 장티 니지메 저는 하모 기생들 리틀레요 마로 인제라 lamrim kom jar kona sula lamna integration nge sul lago sra.
Now, it is important over the next month or a little over a month that we have a break, that we look at this, what we've been through in this class, the stages of the path to full awakening. We have looked at reliance on the spiritual friend, correct pure devotion, perfect human rebirth, and death and impermanence. And most of us here were also at the Easy Path retreat. Nick, you were not here. It would be good if Nick had a copy of that text. And if there were any questions around how to meditate on any of those subject matters of initial scope, please ask.
디 야고치도 디 탭 고비 징냐로.
Yeah.
근데 말로기 꼼자기 이제 다 탄다. 람림 망보 지단다 람림들 셰다. 좀 망보 쉬지도. 다 탄데 디 람림디 델람디지나 용지기 냠네 치단지 유리도.
Yeah.
이나양다 디 먼저 럽시 겨울음지네 디 자베 인자네 그 상한 기생 public 셰샤로 하다 개면도 아니 다 계제주디 남림 첨모다 네 남들 랍잔도 당 아주 망보 로그요래 남림 딩 로라 그들나나 데셰디 개보십진 요데비체 데셰 요가 말이야 두님도 라다위나 Telamnalama Gomdan the Sheng, Gomdan Tira, Gomdan the She. And Gomni that Susu Nyamyo, Kande Yungi, those are Lamrin Chamoda, Namdula Janda, Joseph, Lamrin Ding the Zoom, Lamrin Special Nadan Tagina. Ne Dijon and la Tata Goranchi Nyamyo, Tero, Yoro, that Benanzo Shenye Dinzu. Shenye Dinzu get or Shenye Dinzu talk by Jave said, and a Katu that Gom Jamni Condensed, Shenye Dinzu Yamne the Yores.
Yes.
Or the Kawahagures, or the die or
This text on the Dalam, the blissful or easy path, is an excellent book to have and to take with oneself into retreat and to read and meditate upon. And of course, there are lots of ways to teach the Lam Rim, but this is unique in that it is an experiential type of exposition of Lam Rim. We had this transmission of the experiential Lam Rim from His Holiness the Dalai Lama in public. However, it has blessings there because one is supposed to experience the subject matter. And when you do that in conjunction with these other Lam Rim texts that are more extensive. For example, Lama Tsongkhapa's Great Stages on the Path to Enlightenment, the Great Lam Rim, and Pabong Rinpoche's Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand, and also the Middle Lam Rim. Well, these are not just expressions of reality. We are supposed to meditate on them. So really, this text that I've mentioned, The Easy Path, is how to meditate experientially on the subject and using these other texts. I mentioned the vaster texts as, in terms of expanding on that or explaining that. The Great Lam Rim and Pabongka's Liberation and so forth, the medium ones. Then one knows how, through one's experience, to identify signs whether or not one has developed insights. For example, the initial subject of correct, relying on a spiritual friend, one does those meditations and then how do you know that you have got that realization? Well, that's where you use the larger texts to verify and show you the signs by reading them and knowing them.
Lamsan Lamrim Komia, Yo Mari Joa, the Mushi Shagu, Tune the Tunes of Shendi, and Hambo Jamdo, Guloya Woche, Jamdo Simji Yawotin, and Semishi de some of the Stanra, to Studa, and the Yela Dumbadi. The Yela Dumbajewa, the Lama Chevari, Dine de Stuvation, and the Candela Jet and Dine Yuna. The Candela Jet and Dine Yela Dumbatan Shagiro.
Okay.
The Yan Sanjugi, Yena Dumba de Yore. Candela Jet and Dine, Candela Jet Dungur, Jonas Mancha, and it did Candela Jamadun like Jamdo Simji, Lamenenjo Nimdoche, and Yela Dumba de Tetum, Mendepu. And the nation to Candela the Mikpa the Uevegala, Sinidunzu, the Comshavina, and the Ninjo Dora.
Okay, so then, of course, when we meditate on the Lam Rim proper, we're not going to just go straight into it. We are going to understand what is necessary in the meditation session and the post-meditation session. And within that meditation session, we are going to go through preliminaries, preparatory practices, and then there's the main body of the meditation and conclusion. So in those preparations, one will have gone through refuge, taking refuge, generating a vast mind of bodhicitta, incorporating before immeasurable thoughts. And there are many ways one can include the 7 limbs. Of course, the 7 limbs are in the Lama Chopa practice, Guru Puja, also within the practice of Ganden Lagyama, 100 deities of the land of joy, and also Samantha Bhaja's prayer that is there. I think using the 7 limbs as they are set out in terms of the Ganden Lagyama, 100 deities of the land of joy, is good, because the way they're set out there, one has already done the refuge, bodhicitta, 4 immeasurables, and one is holding the merit field whilst one does the 7 limbs, and then you offer mandala, and then go into reliance on the spiritual friend like that.
아니 다 신이든지 곰자wen데 라마종가가 투가라 제름 가서 돈바점 된데 체로 돈바점 된데 투가네마 아니 왜세 홍래 왜세 트스스 탐에기 계획신이 되지 뒤로 곰라 될라다 삼배든지다 저배든지 세도도다 마 남랭그 sabject 시샤지지 그네 곰자고 여러스타로
Now, if you are meditating on the subject of correct reliance on the guru devotion, how to correctly rely on the spiritual friend, you visualize in the space in front, in the merit field, the principal figure, inseparable from your guru, Lama Tsongkhapa. At Lama Tsongkhapa's heart is Buddha Shakyamuni. In turn, at Buddha Shakyamuni's heart is the seed syllable Hong. From that seed syllable Hong, light rays emanate out, and from the emanation of such light rays come the aspect of your kind guru in human form in this life comes in the space in front of you. And then you go through the meditations on how to correctly devote to the spiritual friend in thought and deed.
세상다 신이든지 인도스 곰자변데 어느 소소 디나라든데 숨 다디 신이든지 똑바제베 참라거든 네 셰다면라데데 용데게도 리카셰나 아니 디제디 소소 산제 궁어이 삼백 두시 단다 델람나레이나 디제 산제 궁어이 엠베 두시 기토가 질 샤용고도
Right.
다야 단다디 가로직 람린직 나라 아니 다 수수 탐에 신예된주 곰 냠냠len 체윤디 수수 탐에 기겐지 여러다 근데라 딜라 녀몽게 견도 통야 미신다게 카든데 땅윤디 아니 수수 대화 숙처로 로도나로 미신다게 카당으로 카당 잡라발라발라 라와다 아니 수수 견데 통윤디 아니 수수 대화 단도 숙처로 로도나 다 신예된주 도와지베 쳇샤고로 어디리다.
Now, in that context, when one meditates on correct devotion to the spiritual friend, what would be the sign that the insight has come, that you have realized it? Well, in accordance with the easy path, one would be able to see or have the direct intuition that one's human guru is Buddha, to see the Lama as Buddha. And yet, in some other Lamrins, it's stated that the appearance of the guru in human form, if other people were to criticize your guru, saying they have such and such a fault or such and such an affliction, that would only be a condition for your faith to increase in the guru. That would also be a sign that you had gotten guru devotion. Yeah. So what this is really like the condition for taking the conditions into the path to stabilize faith. That's what that is.
다디 삼로단다 수수 곰잡잡잡잡잡다나 덴디 용야 유데오지리샤스로 엄마다 나 곰발레데디 신인디 람는 시라 곰야 되서 요마로 아니 내 기겐치 타워데요 말에 로아 타워로레다 당고도 데 셈나는 메데오 쇼 용고도로 근데 내데 다데 지시단데 주제외인자 람린다 신예든 저콜라 망보다 쇼다르시 가마주정아 곰데요 삼당겨로 팅산데 셈나는 메데오데 춘데금도 와서는다 직다 단단한 중에 미적에 믹스에 삼노다인데 대단하다 그게 가시 지롱차우 저런데 여러다 두두 삼노다인데 뭐만 셈나라다 데스 메데오 용구도 다 단다로이나 텐데 용문도 하다고 디디 고미하다 도스도 삼단 바이나디 신이 된지다 디 개좀 쉬어지려가도 그러와
Islagi gegen die Schafara, in der Yomara.
아직 요르던데 캐나다라
Then gegen chick the trouble.
미저
So then one meditates again and again and again on that subject of guru devotion. We want to stabilize that. In the monastery, initially, I didn't have much time to meditate on guru devotion like that, as it's laid out in the Lamrim text. We were so busy. But latterly, some time did come, and one of my teachers actually, became a layperson who gave up his vows as a monk, and that made me a little bit ill at ease, I would say. But during that time, I would meditate 10-15 minutes on guru devotion quite steadily, and then I would not be upset at all about that teacher when I reflected. And also one's teacher who was really quite quick to anger could be a condition to upset, but that didn't happen at all. So these are the benefits of it.
한단다디 르다 건조 가시 수수 가망으로지 미 가시 경전냐 상단되니던데도 되즈도 카단 것도 좀 산제 좀 된데 다저 돈바시 짓 먼저 겨울을 무신래 카단 뭐고 신이도 알아 안도저 통연이네 다 콘솔라 닝지기도 메시 콘솔 콘도사고만도 알아 디 제가 다 수수 레마타고라 레마타고 온게 경통 통화로 알아 수수 나와 통화들라 나와들 샤위나 아니 파고도면 지든 잠바고 뭐키 통화로 알아 아니 키르베디 키 말아 전라 산제레도 알아 제가 시다 하고 해요 말이지 나와디 수수 나와지고 가라 참아송나 먼저 나와가는 참아송되게 열어 먼저 나와라 담에 나한테게 윤다 되게네 경원디 또 민도 랍되게 열어 따디 냠낸 친이지는 깨자 되즈리도 셰고 말해라 아니 근데 기겐을 카다니게 기룩도 님들 너망에 기겐게 된데 님들 시다 만도 세그래 미 기겐을 카다니 된데 님들 이게 미디 님들 시다 만도 그 대바 저랑 기겐 대바를 좋은시 그렇고 가도이네 미 좋은 잔잔 중대 그랬지 디릭도저 데스 대화 용스셰비네 펜도 용고요 당보로 근데 수수 쌤게 대바데 마 짜나 아니 디베 토부차로도 알아 아니 파졸로 뇌로도 파조 저랑기 개와디 매우스베인자 대바지 매우스베인자 파졸레 뉴도 와제자 제가 디즈릭도저 아니 먼저 다 처왕고 가라 나라도 지존나라 용구여베인데 디즈릭 미드즈 님도 깨지 셰원디네 다 딕송스라 토빅 저접 야면은 되면은 님도르시다 만도시나 야가 열어 사실 카사나 디르 저랑 아님도 저도 말에 저랑 얘기 카던 것도 나 저도서 말했어 랍샤위네 야고 산잖아
So the notion of seeing faults as faults in the spiritual master due to one's impure karma, historical accounts stem from the time of Shakyamuni Buddha. Well, people revolt against this holiness, don't they? So that would be an object of compassion. Really, one cannot trust one's appearances at all in terms of like a valid cognition if the Sangha perceived Guru Maitreya as a dog, then what to say? How far can we trust the appearances that we see as being the case? Because our view is ordinary, and I experienced this with criticism of one of my teachers, and I knew the advice to create space between myself and those that were criticizing my teacher was a good advice, because that's almost like if you follow what those that criticize the teacher are saying, then that could be following a misleading spiritual friend, and the roots of faith degenerate. That's possible, isn't it? That's possible, isn't it? And if you come across such criticisms, say, for example, at a Dharma center, it would be skillful either to change the subject, if that seems appropriate, or create a space between oneself and such people, or even in some cases, directly bring it to their attention and say, I don't think that's appropriate. You can be direct if it's needed.
제가 어디서 다 신이든지 저다 검접 아니 수수 청어 간을 데스 라렌달 투비나 야고여와 니 야고여나 아니 냠렌 상마 야고 용거 봐. 디 야고 매비나 아니 다 차차다 상마 중요해요 말에. 드니 예. 냠렌샤네 체디게 자와도 야고 연구면도 하러.
One has to meditate on correct guru devotion and be moved by that, but also accept the responsibility and practice accordingly. Because if you don't, then, or if you do, excuse me, the practice will go well. But if not, as it is the root, then no insights will come and nothing will go well.
어디래다 신이된주 삼배된주들라네 대화장마당 아니 그 렌즈메고는 그거장 대화장마들라 연대신 다 약수디 대화장야들라 약수디 아니 좀 된데 랍자 디 여러분 최라마도 간상마도 최라된서 어디 간상라 좀 된데 랍자 가르자는 게 진주도서 아니 간상디 미 칸데 메타죠 말 그런 게 최악의 최대 아니 양다고 그래도면서 다고 그래서 다 최대한 칙을 다죠 말에 전달을 다고 그래 상상을 칙대 주부인에 전달이 하고 있는 지기요로 칙을마다 전달다스 다 전달이네 장들마다 녀들마다 장들수도다 지 공부되고 해야 되는데 다시 뭐 많이 봐 덴버도 요래라나 덴버도 요 말와 녀들 덴버마도 요래라나 네 틀었다고 그래 녀들수도 다시 뭐 켈란드로 다 돼야 아니 원실마다 이실 제가 원실은 저 나와디 나되게로 담에 나와 나되게 틀었다지요 말 이 녀버녀버 했다고 그래서 어디 이실다 원실마다 이실다 제가 네 가서 다 냠네 랍제간라 치고야 차고요 시대 먼저 탐마다 남바 차타로 제가 다 돈베게 랍제 두서 냠네 치고다 돈바 좀 된데 제위나 랍제 두서 제고래다 로 좀 된데 두서 숨그려와
So then, in terms of a correct reliance on the spiritual friend in thought and deed, first you rely in thought, how you do it with intention, and that is first cultivating faith by seeing the qualities of the guru, and secondly, developing respect through recalling how kind the guru is. So the first one of cultivating faith due to seeing the qualities of the teacher. Shakyamuni Buddha himself stated these 4 reliances to underline this. So don't rely on the person, rely on the Dharma. Don't rely on the Dharma, rely on the words. Don't rely on the explicit meaning of the words, rely on the implicit meaning. And within the words, don't go for the nominal appearance of the consciousness, go for a wisdom or a valid insight of consciousness. What this means is, firstly, the person teaching the Dharma, don't put too much emphasis on the person. It is the Dharma they're teaching that is of import. Secondly, in terms of the Dharma they're teaching, sometimes the words might come out a little bit rough or whatever, but really one is going for the meaning of the words, not the words. Then within the meaning, we're not going for the, we're going for like what the words mean ultimately, not temporarily. So temporarily the words appear to be truly existent, but ultimately they're expressing the final nature of reality. So don't go for implicit, go for explicit. And then in terms of that twofold, 2 truths, don't look at them with a wangshe, which means like the sense kind of consciousnesses. Cultivate an attitude towards Dharma of the mental consciousness of wisdom, which goes deeper.
어디래. 근데
sorry. So we're all, sorry, Gisha, so we're all Buddhist. We should be. So I thought to say that.
진에다 대화 잠들어 두서 삼당으로 와. 이지 대화제의 약속에도 와.
And then, of course, we have to cultivate faith in the Guru amongst the three types. Faith of conviction is the most stable.
좀 된데를 대화제의 어디 약속에. 좀 된데 이 숭주 뒤에데. 아니 제로 뭐지. 단다 자라마 저절라 다 라메게 숭데라 따연디니 대화제 용도 제가 대화제를 편도 쉬우지래도 아니 지 가서 그래 나나가서 지 공부로다 반대 다와다고다 제로 모든 제녀요 말들래 빼제디게 따연디 단다 도와지데 여베 소리로 왔어 서외나 단다랑 도와지데 티 도와지데 여베 소라고 와지래 용거도 하고 제단디 추디 개좀뭐 식 된다데 죄자데 따야데 개좀뭐 쉬우지래도 제가
And then one develops that conviction in the Guru by looking at or listening to the speech, isn't it? By understanding what Shakyamuni Buddha taught, what Lama Tsongkhapa says or expresses through the teaching. It moves one, and one gets a feeling from that. And there's so much benefit from that. So much so that if you really can develop that conviction, you would almost think they are here with us. We didn't meet Nagarjuna, we didn't meet Lama Tsongkhapa, but by reading what they composed in terms of disseminating Dharma, one can get that sense, oh, they're with us, they're here. So really, the faith of conviction comes from what they teach, the sung, the speech, and what the speech expresses.
And the Jeromuchi, then the Devanan, the Sunda, Zeva Gunle Chodin, Zeva Sungi in Sirva. Tini Kawaii, Dini Sanjeji Renches, on the Tugun, that Toronto celebration in the Chigurwa, the Dunan Sanjeji, Sungi, Zeva de, the Tile, Sungi Zeva, the Zevan and Zeva Chok to Juvaris, Chesan Tilanganzo. Ani lobjon chigi na sanje jes tembege the jeden said sung jeding chudu said yung yo res jermuchin ten de na sung do seven ge chok de res
in the praise of dependent arising, Lama Tsongkhapa praises Buddha by saying, of all the deeds he performed, supreme amongst those were your holy speech. So we like to celebrate those Buddha days, isn't it? We really study and recall Buddha's kindness or deeds. Supreme amongst those deeds he performed is what he taught.
Oh, teneda kadin jeden yukune kuwa jangwa resro kadin jes ten da kadin chemboro warwa zawe lama dige gi kadin ge ani thandasa wa zambuling di nangba sanje we chu 수수 냠는 치도나 산제지 공ban 로트베야디 요바디 라마디 제게 자 라마디 제게 가딘 로하와 문자 라마게 수수라 잠로 돈바 아니 지 기술롱 거 돈바 아니 지 창조생 거 돈바 nga 거 돈바 숨 아니 와티 롱명아 디에 난거요 디에디다 타메게 기겐디 전에 슈그레미 시지 산제 전에 단다 슈도예요 말와 제가 산제 레장 거딘 쳐와래서 방도디 산제 토바이네 거딘 기차네 산제 레장 단동외스 유니 아니 나마디타 가디초레스 고요로 저저 응외니 저로 와와 저저 삼노 담비나 아니 거딘 지스템베고는 그거je 왔어 다디 신인된 저게 대전 니니디 개점벌 니니가는 삼노 담으로
The second of our headings for Guru devotion is to recall the kindness of the Guru, as how kind the Guru has been to oneself and developed respect therein. The fact that the spiritual friend teaches us the Buddha Dharma and shows us the path to Buddhahood. All of that kindness is coming from the spiritual friend, your root Guru, who gave you refuge, the valid direction, and gave you the various sets of vows whether it be the Getzo vows, ordination, whatever. And then there's 3 classes of vows, Pratimoksha, Bodhisattva Tantric vows. Did all of that. Also gave you empowerments and transmissions. In that sense, then, the human spiritual friend is even kinder than the Buddha. Kinder, not perhaps in the sense of the abandonments or where the Buddha is, but kinder in the fact that we didn't meet the Buddha directly, so kinder in doing all those things for us. So those 2 headings about correct guru devotion are important. Thought, indeed. Let's say sorry, what was the first one? Yeah, faith, and then recalling the kindness and respect.
Pedang zo lamrim chimu dan zo na la sabje dezen ma tamen de lamji zawa shinyi denju sigdo cheda lamji zawa songdo lamji zawa se de kare zawa se de yang zo shin medo da gu yin medo ge zawa sen zawa de ni kechen bor de men medo jig marwa tena shi lam komya ge zawa de ta gegen den dan de songro ti men ani 다 가져 참 가져 대난 편도 요 말이다. 이와요 말도 고제지다. 지주멜라게 기겐게 나와메 발라 곰망 부자로.
야.
사주신다 신제. 마발로자가 나와메 버시지. 마베게 기룩 타셔들. 당아 기겐게 나와 유스타. 그런 거 원로명아 찾은 때로. 때는 곰잡지 똑바지는 제게요 말아. 그런 기 가래다 저는 응원에 지나 유튜브 도와 지그레스네 제좀 멜라다가 라메가 나와요 말이스 표용은 제산 데레스 당도 라마사 도르스네 지좀 멜라파 라마이사 티칭로 마르월로 자베스로 제산 디 두두 베레다 도르다 원에레 가즈 가셔다 개겐대요 말에 등상을 누절라 된데 가보도 곰잡 참대 곰잡는 도보지도야 곰잡 지고 도보지도야 말에 깔래 잡지 롭존체 탭 온라인 채널 팬도시라 요 말대 다 간다 온라인 겨울머신 ನಂಗ도 미상화신 대요요 말에 겨울머신이 온라인 나야 돼 겨울머신 똑바요로 똑바디 nhậpทุ고요로 배 먼저 돼 nhậpทุ고메 먼저 디링다 다요 말 산제 좀 된데 이기 간에 냠바 저토로 튕기 냠바 저고서 신다게 돼 최저고요 말에 계속 이유는 산제 좀 된데 똑바 냠바시 거로 산제 좀 된데 똑바 냠바지 이유는 튕기고는 냠바지 제가 다 온라인 간에 원룸 명아 티 때tum이데 겨울머신 디그리 송아데 다 디그도 상마 디야요 말 디에나 겨울머신다 똑바 냠바시 거로 돈이 또 우리 전주심 귤 거다 겨울머신아 전주심 요송도다 알레당은 저 뒤저 말한지 지당 미 제레스 켈링거데 투모 많이 받이게 뒤저 투모 많이 받이게 제레스 켈링치 거래 다 투모 원래 내가 전주심 요 돈이 또데 요 송도다 다 온라인 간라야 원룸 명아 티나도 미들 돈이 또니 전주심 요니지 거다로 되면은 아니 가고 싶죠 양디 제가 디 망보지기 등산야 온라인 간라 정말 ring대단 지기도 네 ring대단 배이나 아니 자고요 말다
So then the correct reliance on the spiritual friend is said to be, in the context of the Lamrim, the root of the path. How's that? Well, similarly, a flower needs a root for it to come to its fruition. And, you know, if we're going to meditate on that path and we need a teacher to show us how to meditate on that path, if there's no spiritual friend to show that path and how to, and how to develop that path, then we could retreat a lot, but no insights will come at all. Many cases of that happening. Milarepa, in fact, initially went to meditate without relying on a teacher, or he was meditating on topics and he left the meditations because there was no appearance of a guru at all. No insights came. So to counter that, finally he had to find Mapa, whom he had a connection with, and then slowly, through correct reliance, insights came to Milarepa. That's one example. But also in the West, there are people who want to do a lot of retreat and want to do their own thing. Well, without relying on a spiritual friend, even though they are doing retreat, no insights will come at all. Similarly, online, a lot of people are doing study online these days and watching a lot of online teachings and even taking transmissions and wangs and so forth online. That might be fine, but in reality, to gain the benefits of such teachings online, you have to have cultivated certain levels of insight yourself. So, for example, His Holiness, some people say they watch His Holiness online, but His Holiness is someone that is teaching from experience, coming from having realized emptiness and bodhicitta. And really, without us, the disciples, having some level of that understanding, we cannot get the same level of insight that His Holiness is giving. Similarly, Buddha couldn't transfer his realizations to us just by us reading it. Some people think that by studying online that they are just going to get it, but actually that's not the case, because there is Chinrezig that is appearing, like common as a human form, but in an uncommon sense. They are Chinrezig, in fact. But to get to that level of Chinrezig, what we have to remember is we have to have uncontrived bodhicitta and emptiness to get to that level. And you're not going to get that just by following online.
단디 롭존의 랍초고라라 이나 완롱 맹아도서 티 완롱 맹아도서 다 가고라면 지나마이미 롭존의 대초고라라 고고도의 대배초고라라.
Study online one can do, of course, that is there, but to get these transmissions and empowerments online would be more difficult.
다디 신디 신이된 주가도 되라 저런저 검 자오다 데 디네 마타나네 도사야 마데 티야고지 마주나나 아니 야고용 말어 디갈로다 단도 뒤즈만 거예요 이제 니머레레 지 까망아 주다 검 자오레스라 마체반 뒤즈에는 주즈직세로 야고다.
Then it seems indispensable we have to meditate on Guru devotion as the path, as the root of the path. And we are coming to a period where we have a break, so there is time. If you can do 5 to 10 minutes a day unbroken, excellent. And then if you have more time, do an hour.
다드네 남기서 신이 된 주심 때때네 로시다 제외를 봤어요. 딜라니 대외된라 닝불라면서 구와서디 텐셔든지디 제와 다 대외 먼저 닝부치다 렌즈 승을 니셰라 다 대외된라 닝불라면서 구와서디 당저 나나줄 밀류된 야고 쉽지 톱대여라디 된래야다 닝부 전다예외 내가지 채우래서 와 전다예와시 당연한지 지나미 초제 내가 채우러 왔다 배셔선다 내가 이나다 쇼지다 최고야 기요 말에 되는 당연하죠. 만차요 로갑진 간로 차로 가절래나 로 숨주 로 뉴슈 대용로 아니 텐데시다 다한테지다 여기로 와다 아니 뉴질랜드 로 투지랭아 도나 gembotek도 아니 이게 최야고 재미나 뉴질랜드기 미드들레 펜토그로 와 배샤로 휴 서비네 시드도 정말 샤는래도 와 아니 스스 배 가짐서라 윌린지라고 어디 대하고 샤나 아니 직도와 공부하다 미교 냠다다 모덴피어 면람대 근데 샤나 야고 요래 교치마디 최단 되어요. 치베체 최면도 강매편 부사디 러다고. 저선 도저 때 상당히나네 텐조 텐제 되어야 되나. 가리나다 즉 때서 어둑 잡지로 최. 때 지금 삼사로지. 남림 상당한데 어다. 말한 미리 루덴인데 야고 즉 톱샤네. 말한스 디제디 대외된 톱 즉 산제 덴바단제 여러 상마다 낭바 그런서 잠르삼 지기니 동발렌 사러 다시는 기주 the tower 지야 되어요 배하고로 아니 오늘 지금 저 겨망고 추억시들 내가 시대 제요 말와 다리 겨대 추억시들 내가 대 제외 있나 아니 개발상보에 두두 상보 요와데 텐던데 뭐지면라 지용서에 삼 전에 삼 당토이는 아니 지 야구 여러 야구 연구로 하다 연구로 하다고.
So, having correctly relied on the spiritual friend, then how one is going to advance progress on the path in stages, isn't it? How we're going to train in stages. Well, then that comes down to making the most of being human. First, we are encouraged to recognize being human, and then we're exhorted, if you will, to make use of being human by taking the essence of it, taking the essence of that perfect human rebirth. What would that mean? To make the human rebirth meaningful? Well, there has to be some kind of feeling there. I know you guys have feelings about making a living with money. But also one needs to get a deeper sense of making the perfect human rebirth meaningful. Some of us are over 50 now.
Ben,
not Ben. We got what, 30, 20 years? 30, 20 years? Being a bit more. 30, 20 years? What to do for 20, 30 years? 65, we get a pension, maybe from the New Zealand government. Then the question would be with the pension, how to use that money to benefit the Kiwis, the people in New Zealand. Why? We should start thinking about these things because we know that at death we have to pass on and we can't take the money, but we have to make a will. We have to make a will and start getting ready, and so then it would be good to start thinking about future lives. So okay, so I'm going to pass away. How about dedicating some of the money to the down and out, or to the Gompa, or to something of Dharma import? Then there's a chance that, as they say in terms of future lives, the only thing that matters at the time of death are one's Dharma practice or imprints of Dharma. Then that would be making this human rebirth meaningful, as we talked about before, perfect human rebirth. So I'm asking you, put some effort into that, please. Put some effort into that. And then when you're contemplating the Lam Rim, you should think, I'm human, I've got it. I've got it. Meaning that I have got it in the sense that I'm human, but also these external conditions. I've met the Buddha doctrine, and then I have developed refuge. I've taken the refuge in the safe direction. Some of you might be thinking about becoming a monk or ordained. That's fantastic. And you have to look at the context of where we are in this life, comparing it to like past lives. So try and do a little bit better in this life, make effort. And then if you really get that point, you will have realized the meaning of being human and life will go well.
제가 어디다 아니 텐조 튼지 대화제 조주 텐조 니가 와. 대화제도 좋아주 텐조 니에가 니 니에가와들 베고는 니에가 뭐건 도저 상노다나 도중은에다 수수 먼저를 류된데 직 토바디 하고 버셔라 이 어두스마 상로는 아니 직 가서를 셈나는 텐조 텐지게 던져 텐지게 다 던져 텐지게 상노다는데 당에 밀루디 돌아다는 dik 말에 다 시다는 대서 말에 대지른가 단다 직 딜하고 직 최고도 오스러와 다 근데게 삼노지 충분히나 아니 야고 요래스러
So reflecting on the rarity of being human under those categories of the freedom from the 8 faulty states and those 10 richnesses or endowments. There are examples of how difficult it is to be human, difficult to get, but when you reflecting on them again and again, you get the point. You get the point that don't waste time because there isn't much time.
단다 디야고 요르다 가서 수수 아니치 베샤도즈 아니치 군다샤야다 추절 현대자도즈 지난 알아서 망고지다 소쇼 미교보다는 로고시 적으로 왔죠. 소남디 소남면다요로 소남디 차요로 산지기 템버지니 긴두지 대당 아니 구송투된당 된델라야 베샤담비나 소남디 망아요로 소남디 슉차요 싱켜벌전로 세상단다 매전한 지자고로 미카셰 시디 지 가르잖아 냐왈지로도라고 아니 먼저 지 덤베 구샤야다 아니 식숭숭다 아니 된대지 많이 콜로샤야다 된대체도 아니 디샹사베질 지직겹도 아니 밀겨올래 같은데 겨울랭기도 세 된대 용거 지난 주어도다 지주어도로 가르지나는 된대 용거요 근데 데 로주나래 망고요 된대 겨와 가주도 세상에서 미시타네 둔직 심야도 빼내가 좀 봐. 둔직 심야. 둔디 시비시고 심야데 빼 시월라 편도 좀 쉬어져라. 뭐네 편도고.
I see. So then there are those that with finances it is good to, for example, put effort into statues, consecrating them, make donations to the Dharma Center. When such offerings are made via social media, these are excellent things because it is a Shin Kyeparchen, which means that the field is exceptional, the field of merit, in the sense that when you do these things in terms of body, speech, and mind towards the holders of the doctrine, Gendins and the ones who are upholding the doctrine, the merit is much faster. So, for example, sometimes people like to do astrology, but without knowing what's going to happen, they might be reborn in a difficult rebirth, because you can't see that. But conversely, if people are making donations to valid objects, like, that we mentioned, like helping the statues or these other things, then there are cases that those potentials for going to the difficult rebirths are reversed. Now, in that context, these 49-day cycles of aspirations and prayers and merit moving are very important. There are stories, lots of stories of that.
모모디 밀라 지당고 밀라 지기도 미장 우부 지나라 지기도 스러 총으로 지나라 되네 되러 아마다 미장 우부나라 지나다 모모 강에 퇴그랬다 모모 그랑게 둘로다 도저여와 안도저 파 디체 좀 되게 배셔야돼 야 근들래야 인구치야다 세단 도마좀된데 세단지 샹아 상황제 샹아 안데젤 찌제도 다 뭐뭐 왜 미루 미장 축보지를 겨 불을 겨래 아니 타와다 불이 겨래 아니 타와 지야르셔 타웨다 타와 진이질로 링도스 어딘데 주어도다 좋아 괜찮아 도와야
So astrology in that sense, my grandmother, grandmother was due to take birth in poor circumstances. We heard this, we did some divination around this. And then because we heard that, what we did was to sell some of her clothes, and with the money, we consecrated some statues. And as a result of that, the divination came out that the merit had changed the karma so that she was now headed for a male body and was going to become ordained.
근데 내가 잠도 쳐야 돼. 편도 좀 쉬어도. 그래서 저랑서 예 등봉에 마디 라인 받는다. 좀 된데 자유를 피디는 하지. 다 겨워지만 파과 겨울링도 하고라. 그거 될 지게 파괴 동에를 지게 아니 또 맞좀 된데 잠도 쳐야 돼. 개회자하게 겨워지만 총봉 축부지 불을 겨울래. 아니 대랍도 좀 세들을 다좀 먹고 마도 근데 정도. 그래서 잠도지 잠도시는 예송래 도도고요. 제가 도저 삼노다 하나다 최 시외지 최매도 강매 변사도 다다 연구요로.
The roots of merit from refuge also are so beneficial as a protection, valid protection at death, as the story I gave of the god who saw their future life as a pig. And because of the fear of seeing that future rebirth, took a heartfelt refuge in Buddha, and that was able to afford protection from that miserable rebirth. And the turn of that meant that that person was born into a rich family and subsequently became an arhat in that life. So that is in line with the saying that at the time of death, the only thing that matters is the Dharma insight. Here, we're talking about your mind realizing Dharma, blocking the difficult rebirth.
제가 말한저 데이터 상담도 와도 말한저 뒤에 직다 처연나지 매지워로 강연들의 연구도 와. 근데 매지워로 지외 가도라 아니 직 라마 태야다 아니 직 검자제 아니 많이 태야는데 태운데 당연히 매지워도 매우 차로더라. 가도 그러나 주어 두고도 하대 하고도 하대. 되더라. 인지민지 저와치 뭐 고구면도 와. 세다가랑 하고도 하대로.
We can see from our experience in life difficulties come, and if you on the spot recall your teacher, you meditate, you do some mani padme hums, recalling that, just that, then you'll notice the energy change. We don't need to think about waiting for future lives for that. You can do that on the spot. So powerful, no? Just these methods, so powerful.
세상에 다드네 대외들 닝불라메신데 닝불렌 중고였더라. 안델라야다 주어친리 주송을 라면진 바디 셰로. 데나라다 주부충을 간소 기생에 마탄다. 단답인제 롭젠데 주부충을 차장 차요 말에다 둔다 제메 디참데네 마도 로제네 딱 람린디 마무티제도 스토리는 다 신다 가리는 거면은 저랑서 람린라 지 고된 차와다 람린라 가시니 다치 고미야 딜레 다딜 약시 딜 다 데리샤스야 지로 하나서 학과르데 하나서 누졸라 다 람림다 로종 약쇼레샤 람림다 로종 페 따다레샤다 간다 로 람림 로종디 따다레샤다 간다 로종디 세제 디다 하나서 그래서 수수 감다 매버다 툼바드레시다 간다 다 요젤로라 먼저 라고 차례면도 라고 차는 디 가야 되냐 되면죠 차로라 다 람림라 삼무당 로종도 삼무당 디당은에 바자 겨와치말 최단 되어 여바지 소투서와다 디 든데지 중나 간대야고 연구래로
after recognition of being perfectly human, one takes the essence and puts it into practice in terms of the three capacities, initial, medium, and vast scope. Of those, we even haven't finished the initial one, have we? We somewhat went through it during the blissful easy path retreat. And I think as we go through the Lam class further next semester, of course, it would be great if you could see the meaningful nature of that, the purpose of that, and have a joy around that. Because essentially, that practicing that Lam Rim, that is it. That is it. There is nothing more. In the West, I think these are the things that suit us the most. The twofold of the Lam Rim and Lojong, the mind training. Why? Because it's going to be able to suit our karma, our beliefs, and our dispositions. One wants to be able to raise one's hand and have something to show. Well, what better to show when we are made accountable than imprints to take with us of these things into the next life.
다 주부 중국의 남래라네 처음이다 삼다야들 자오숨 준제고 타제고 숨세데 이마 삼로다로 다 처음이다 올라데 라괴미다 오래 미다 올라 라괴미다 와다 참미다 원이 여봐 라괴미다 와서데 다 치왕의 남진님이 치외에서 최면도 강의 인매변 봐서 어디가나 삼로 먹고 당고 대다 남진님이 니니를 삼로 당고다
And then when we reflect on impermanence and death, we are going to do that in terms of the three roots, the three reasons, and the three conclusions with a ninefold reasoning. Of course, contemplating death and impermanence is the gross level of impermanence, of which there is a subtle level. But first, we're going to go through the fact that it is definite death will come. Its time is uncertain, and at death, the only thing that matters is time. But that second one, of the uncertain time, that's good to think on.
방안한테 되죠. 근데 저때 쉬우지 개침뭐 쉬우지 인터해야 돼. 근데 개셔야 개 말에 시두는 펜토면 들어. 근데 상담도 다 개면도 와 쉬우지 자침보다 개침보 제일 개면도. 상슬랑 안서 내주 춘주든데 자 전부 쉬우지 인터인 거도 아니 이제 개레면도 당원에 신으로.
Sometimes we don't actually, we think around death, oh, what's the benefit of thinking of that? We put it off. Conversely, these small things we make a big deal of. What's the point of that? What is the point of that?
다드네
Reverse.
디네다 년주동에 삼바 드절라니 지 냐와라 차단동에 드저 삼로다나 야고요래 삼로다anje 아니 지 이달라 대공무동에 둔둘랭구동에 둔두다 단능어서 통구도 알아 동에 냐와도서 아니 드저 야고지 셈바이나 동에 디게 야고지 셈바이나 아니 전주그 셈 닝지 전부 제라 지고 편도로 닝지 전부데 동에 그 통제 딜러 텐더 그 자고 오라 셈제 셴로 디면은 닝지 전부 용고만 닝지 전부면은 전주 셈 용토에 뭐 전주 셈에는 대전람을 쇼도 말 대전람을 쇼면은 산제고 마토에 용고 말와 셔다 그 기부 중국의 남냠내는 버터도 개전부 쇼지 레도아
How indispensable is initial capacity? Let's think on the sufferings of the lower migrations going on from death and impermanence, the extreme sufferings of the hell beings in that realm, we call hells, the hungry spirits, thirst and hunger. Animals, we can see more directly their suffering, and in that sense, we can generate a sense of altruism, bodhicitta. We can move the feeling when you have compassion for animals, because we can directly feel for them. And without compassion, there is no chance of bodhicitta. Without no bodhicitta, Without bodhicitta, there's no vast vehicle. Without vast vehicle, there's no Buddhahood. So once again, how indispensable is the initial capacity?
No, dice. Tiene da tandol hakwardu 동해 그런 신디에 신배이나 아니 잠도야고 용거래 봐. 먼저 디 교충우들 대전시도와 단다디 람린 대람 시제잖아. 아니 데레 처음이다와 당 엔도 동해 상바지. 아니 잡스 구조선의 잡스도 아니 렌델 이치베 태바스. 다 근저선 기생한서 딘데 참디 잠도 가둘 샤샤라. 잠도 가둘래 요래. 세상다 두즈데즈로 잠도 그 잡스도에 유 잡스도즈 잠도 랍자 잠도 펜 어도zo loji ene simna ma samlo destan pejelo ene samlo tan de komjeta de shargom sigro wa du samdan tumna jamdu judela ene jigbatan theba ni su de chesa nge song gu tung yelan jigshin khowa de nge song gu tung yelan jigda go losh ge go yor en tele gyobe ne go kunjo sun yo yi chi gi theba ji tin yuna ene kunjo sun shin jamdu ya go chi yung go yor wa jigbatan theba ni de ya go yo na jamdu ya go yung go timena jamdu pi thawa ji yung go men do hara.
It is good to contemplate the dissatisfactions or suffering nature that beings go through. I mean, one wants to have a stable refuge. So we know that in the initial capacity, we are looking at death and impermanence, the suffering of the lower realms, refuge, and then the infallibility of the behavioral, the law of behavioral cause and effect or karma. We're going through these topics. And so then it would be good if you could read. We're just about to go into refuge, I think, in class. So it would be good if you can go through the different, aspects of refuge. There's the objects in whom you go for refuge. There's the way you go for refuge. There's the cause, and then there's the result. So do a shargam, do very much a glance meditation over all of that. And then in terms of the causes, we know for our refuge to be stable, we need fear and faith. Caution and fear in the sense that the unfortunate migrations are a possibility. Faith in the sense that the three sublime ones can afford protection from that possibility. So only they can afford that protection. If not, then nothing.
Oh yeah, that 진짜 전조디제 어디제 도르다면서.
So that would be summarizing everything we've been through in this class, just like that.
되네다 지메 유딩 되네마도 그지나시 이모 쪽들이 참대 디아보도 지메 진다 중이나도야 두스 그지나시지 람링 참시대위나 디 야보도 이 결혼절에 펜토 나라는 펜시 토도 right.
So we will slowly go ahead to the middle scope, and I think the retreat on the easy path was useful. It would be good again if in December we could do a 5 or 6 day retreat, similar, because it will be good for you, but also for me.
Other day shower.
So we'll dedicate.
Sa shi pe